This is Bryce Burge, host of Your Soccer Passport. Thanks for listening to the following broadcast on Public House Media.
What's up, everybody? This is Christian Heimel, host of Press Row here on Public House Media. Thanks for listening to the following broadcast on Public House Media. Once you're done with this episode, I hope you'll come check out my show, Press Row, where we talk about the biggest issues in sports with the analysts, experts, and reporters who cover them. No nonsense, hard-hitting interviews on the sports topics you're talking about. A new show comes out every single Thursday. And don't forget to subscribe on iTunes so you never miss an episode of Press Row. Thanks again for checking out the following broadcast on Public House Media.
Hello, everyone. It's No Filter Friday on Public House Media, and ooh, has it been a juicy week. The Me Too gods have smiled upon us once again. I don't have to do anything to make this show. Like, literally nothing. I have to, turn on a light, clip on a microphone, be well-stocked with tea, and that's about it, basically. This show does itself. I mean, I'm merely a vehicle for this situation. So, as it turns out, R. Kelly has gotten brought up on 11 charges, but they're unrelated to the charges that he had going on before from Cook County. So these are 11 new charges, and we're going to get all into that. And it's really, really gnarly. So gnarly. Hello. Oh, and Roger Neal and Alexa Poehler and David Bobke. Oh, you know what, Roger? I was just talking about you this week. You and I have to have a non-filter Friday chat. Anyway, I'm going to take a second to share the show because sharing is caring. And you should also take a second to share the show because I got some new information today that I had to go look up, which is really fun information. It's kind of a new situation. Okay, so what are we going to say for the share? Whole new meaning to post. Okay, dunsies. Over with. Craziness. David Bobke sounds good, Branzino. David, did you listen to KLOS the other day? Is that what you know that from, or did I tell you that? I forget. I hope you listened to KLOS the other day. Steven did KLOS the other day because Mr. Frosty has laryngitis and they needed somebody else to come and help talk and tell stories and take some of the pressure off of him. And he told a story about how Mel Brooks has knighted me, Branzino. Roger Neal says he needs to be put on an island by himself. Oh, you listened to the podcast version today. Oh, that's cool. I didn't know that they did that. That's awesome. Yeah, good times. Good times. Turns out if you order the most expensive thing on the menu, Mel will tell everyone. Literally everyone that would listen. That happened at in my defense, we left the Win. We left the Win to go have dinner at the MGM. And, they shoved us out the back door and we all got in SUVs and went over to the Win and had dinner again at the Bellagio Cafe at 3 a.m. or something. But I thought we were having dinner because everyone said we were having dinner. So I ordered Branzino. Meanwhile, everybody else ordered waffles and omelets and a cheeseburger and all this. And the bill came and Mel's like, who ordered the Branzino? And I was like, it was me. It was me. I did it. And then he proceeded to tell all of Las Vegas that I ordered Branzino. And now he tells everybody that. And, like, people have come up to me and like, Branzino! And I'm like, oh my God. Like, he literally told everybody that would listen in Las Vegas. Every sports book, every maitre d', every driver. He told everyone. Everyone. I had people coming up to me the next day like, Branzino. Ridiculous. Okay, so enough Branzino, more R. Kelly. Anyway, so this is kind of gnarly. This came out on Wednesday, I think. Wednesday? It says it was a day ago. David Pupke says Mel Brooks can call me a fish any day of the week. You know what? It's kind of an apt name too because I go fishing all the time, so I love it. I'm glad I didn't order like prime rib or rack of lamb or something. Like it would have been terrible. Been absolutely terrible. Like, oh my God, why do you call her that? Would have been horrible. So this came out like Wednesday. I shared the article the other day. Oh, Tyler. Hello, Tyler. You know what? I was thinking about you today, Tyler, because I got a bill from SAG-AFTRA. And I was like, I wonder what Tyler's up to. So I got this article from the LA Times because I feel like they've kind of been riding out with us in this whole like Me Too thing. So here's Mr. I believe I can fly up out of jail. R. Kelly charged with 11 new counts of sexual assaults. R. Kelly faces a new, even more serious slate of sexual assault charges after Cook County prosecutors charged him with 11 additional felony counts on Thursday. Remember that because we're going to come back to it. Some of the charges could carry sentences up to 30 years in prison. And he has 11 charges. So do the quick math on that. New charges against the R&B singer stem from an alleged incident from 2010 within the statute of limitations. According to the Chicago Sun-Times, the victim's name was not released, but reportedly shares initials with the victim from Kelly's previous round of sexual assault charges in Cook County. That's the interesting part about things like this. Oh, hello, Nathan Wheeler. I haven't seen you in a long time either. The thing about charges that either involve a minor or are sexually heinous, their names, the victims' names are like not put on the record for privacy, and a lot of times the courts they close the court for it, so the public can't just like sit in the gallery or whatever, which on one hand is like nice for the victims because they don't have to stand there and account to not only like their abuser and the prosecution and be cross-examined and the judge in front of like a bunch of people that are irrelevant to their situation, but at the same time though, like it's good to be able to see, you know, the justice system at work because we have to keep eyeballs on that. Eyeballs are required. So pros and cons to that. Anyway, Kelly's new charges include 2 counts of criminal sexual assault by force. So that's 1. 2 counts of aggravated criminal sexual abuse, 3 counts of aggravated criminal sexual abuse against victims ages 13 to 16, and 4 additional counts of aggravated criminal sexual assault. That's a lot. Kelly has a court date set for June 6th, conveniently next week, to address his new round of charges. He is currently free on $1 million bond following his February indictment on sexual abuse charges involving 4 victims, 3 of whom were underage at the time. Hence the expunging of their names and the closed court. Those 10 counts, this is where it gets real nasty. Those 10 counts in February cases carrying charges that could result in 7-year sentences. The new round of charges, classified as Class X felonies, could result in a sentence of up to 30 years if Kelly is convicted. We're going to go back to this Class X felony again because it's really interesting. Kelly's attorney, Steve Greenberg, told the Sun-Times that we'll see what the charges are and we'll proceed accordingly. That is the laziest attorney statement I've ever read in my life. I know this much. It's old, Greenberg added. They're allegations from years ago. 2010 wasn't that long ago, sweetheart. So we'll see. Okay. So that's the thing. Next week he'll have that court date, and we will know more. And like, who knew that? Like, because like the people that I talk about the most on the show are like Harvey Weinstein, and I guess R. Kelly's gonna be. Or I talk about who was our lovely friend that I'm blanking on his name? Terry Crews. Talk about Terry Crews a lot. But this is interesting. Okay, so about this Class X felony business. I had to look this up because apparently they don't do Class X felonies in every state. This is an Illinois thing. So let's talk about Class X felonies, because when you're like, oh yeah, 11 counts of, terrible stuff, but like, okay, like we've all seen plenty, especially recently. Like I've done whole shows on people that admitted to raping children and they don't get jail time. This is different. Under Illinois law, there are 5 different classes of felonies based on the time of imprisonment in a state prison. Apart from first-degree murder, which is not classified, the most serious type of offense is a Class X felony. If you have been accused of committing a Class X felony, the stakes could not be higher. Having an experienced Chicago criminal defense lawyer by your side is the best way to fight charges against you and help avoid conviction. Obviously, that goes without saying. Here's where it gets real juicy. What is the penalty for Class X felony in Illinois? If any aggravating factors are present, the judge has the discretion to sentence the defendant to an extended term, in which is punishable by 30 to 60 years in prison. There are numerous aggravating factors outlined in the statute. Some of them include defendant has a prior criminal history. Check. Defendant committed the offense against a person 60 or older disabled. No. Defendant was motivated by basis of another individual's actual or perceived race, color. So not a hate crime. Defendant's actions caused or threatened serious harm. I'm pretty sure we can check that box in this case. Roger Seeley's going away for 30 or 300 years. An individual who's convicted of a Class X felony cannot be sentenced to probation. Another huge thing in this. The only way for a defendant to be eligible to receive probation is if the prosecution is willing to amend the charge to a lower felony class. This reality, along with the potential jail time facing defendant if convicted, can make plea agreements particularly challenging to negotiate with prosecutors. Okay, so here are some of the other things that are considered Class X felonies in Illinois. Aggravated battery of a child, predatory criminal sexual assault of a child over 17 years of age and a victim under 13 years old, aggravated criminal sexual assault, armed robbery, aggravated arson, home invasion, aggravated kidnapping, aggravated battery with a firearm, aggravated vehicular carjacking. You can't just do like a regular carjacking. You have to be mad while you do it. Possession of a controlled substance with an intent to sell, deliver. Okay, so if he has 11 counts and he gets convicted of 11 counts with a mandatory minimum sentence, that's 66 years right there. If the judge decides that, you know what, you're a little too aggravated for my liking, I'm going to extend this. And he can't get probation because they're Title X, because they're Class X felonies. So I think R. Kelly might be the most caught up out of anybody. Like, yeah, like Bill Cosby's in jail, but he only got 3 to 5 years. Even if R. Kelly gets convicted of 1 count of these new charges, not even the stuff from before, but the new charges, that's a minimum of 6 years right there. So he'll be outpacing Cosby by a lot, and his attorney, Mr. Greenberg, does not seem very enthusiastic. I could be wrong, but he doesn't seem particularly exciting. And they can't even do the plea deal thing, which is how those 2 recent rapists, child rapists, got off so smoothly, is because their prosecution gave them a plea deal. So even though, they admitted that they raped children, the that they're not going to jail because they did a plea. They got a plea bargain. So we're going to see what on earth is going on with Mr. R. Kelly next week. Conveniently so, you know, his court date is next Friday. Again, this show writes itself. It's so amazing. Like, come on. Like, we've had this happen before. Like, Kevin Spacey had to go to court on a No Filter Friday day. Like, and that was in Nantucket. Like, these judges around the country are really cooperating with the coverage of this situation. So, next week we're going to talk more about what happened in court with R. Kelly. But if they get if the prosecution gets their hooks in on any one of these charges, he's going to jail for longer than Bill Cosby even thought about going to jail. So we shall see. And I feel like it gives a whole new meaning to my mind's telling me no, but my body's telling me yes. It's like, was your mind telling you that you're going to go to jail? Because you're probably going to go to jail now that we're down the road. I mean, I could be wrong. It seems like there's a correlation there to me, in my opinion. So we'll see. We'll see how things go next week when R. Kelly has to go to court. I'm wondering if it's going to be like a big brouhaha. Like, I wonder if he's going to pull an Aunt Becky and like sign autographs outside the court, or like yell at everybody like he yelled at Gayle King and like stomps around. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how this goes. I feel like Kevin Spacey's was like more calm because he's like Kevin Spacey's like a ninja. Like, he's in tune with his Zen self, you know? He's got that really, you know, emotive energy. But R. Kelly's a loose cannon, dude. An absolute loose cannon. Who knows how he's gonna... Oh, and Brittany's here. Hello, Brittany. Another thing that worked out perfectly is because last week was Memorial Day weekend, I sent the winner of last week's giveaway from Cherie Cosmetics, I sent her her prize, and she got it today, which was super cool. We love that. I don't know. I think I really had a good time doing a giveaway. I think we're going to do it some more because I work with so many brands, and I think it's a fun thing to do on the show because, you know, again, I say this all the time, far and above the darkest show on Public House Media, for sure. I'm over here talking about sex crimes and abuse and all of these not fun topics while everybody else is like so uplifting and sporty and funsies, and this show is not. But we have to talk about, oh, hello, Patricia. Oh, Roger. Oh, yeah, Roger's got all the tea. I'll do a podcast with you anytime. We should do that. And you know what, too? As it turns out, it feels like the 50th episode of No Filter Friday was like 2 weeks ago, but it wasn't. We're coming up on our 75th episode, if you can believe it. So I think the idea is going to be that 75, 75th episode, 80th episode, 85th episode, 90th episode, 95th episode, we're going to do some really fun guests. Like some of my friends, like Allie Levine, the stylist. Oh, congrats! Oh, thank you. Some friends of the show, like Allie Levine and Candy Washington. I've been talking to her about doing a crossover episode of both of our shows. But over the past few months, I've been talking to people that are police officers, attorneys, people like that, because I want to do a whole series on how to deal with a sex crime in your life, whether it happens to you or somebody you know. Because I don't think there's all that much information out there on how to get, like, if something happens to you or happens, you know, to your child or your sister or whatever, about how to go about, seeking justice and healing from your situation, because there's a lot of good organizations out there that kind of stay hidden because it's a hard thing to advertise. Like, RAINN is really, really amazing. But what are they going to do? You know, put out sponsored ads? Have you been sexually abused? Send us an email. Swipe up. Like, that's kind of ridiculous. So I think I'm going to try to, I've been working on it for a couple months, try to put together for those, you know, those milestone shows leading up to the 100th episode. I think we're going to try to do some guests that are fun guests and guests that are important, informative guests, because people need some sort of, you know, there has to be some sort of resource out there to be like, did your child come to you and tell you that so-and-so molested them? Or did your sister or your brother or whoever be like, yeah, I was sexually assaulted? Or what you do in the moment. When I was going around the world working on my documentary, interviewing survivors of sex crimes and gender-based violence, one lady talked about being the perfect victim because she did everything wrong. She immediately took a shower and got all of the evidence off of her, which is a big factor in what happens to a lot of people, because they just have this urge to, like, scrub themselves, and in time they, you know, in doing that they scrub away evidence so they don't end up with a rape kit or any sort of DNA evidence whatsoever, which is a major problem. Getting any kind of sex crime convicted without extremely compelling evidence is very, very, very hard. Even when the person admits it, as we have recently seen, they'll maybe get a slap on the wrist. Like, it's very, very, very hard to put somebody away for a sex crime. So I think we need to talk about that, of, like, to be armed with that information if anything happens to you, if anything happens to a loved one, if you end up with a Brock Turner situation and you're going down the street one day and you see a guy or someone being raped behind a dumpster who's completely, like, out of it, is unconscious, what do you do? Because those guys in the Brock Turner case, like, they, like, chased this guy down and, like, held him down until the police got there, basically. If it wasn't for them, that poor girl would have had zero access to justice. Granted, she got very little, but still, she would have had nothing to go on. So, I think we're gonna try to do that. Have as many guests on as we possibly can, leading up to the 100th episode. Fruit flies, Jesus. To give, you know, it's fun to talk about, like, R. Kelly going to jail, or how Bill Cosby's probably telling jokes in Cell Block D, or how, you know, Harvey Weinstein had to give away $44 million, so we're going to give away some lip gloss. Like, that's all fun and games or whatever, but I want to be helpful to anybody who is listening, or to be a searchable resource for people who find themselves in these situations. And I don't think there's really anybody being asked that's an attorney or a judge or a police officer, like, what do you need from a person that comes to you that tells you, I need to go after this person, I need to press charges against this person, or I need help, or whatever. Like, how do you have that conversation? Because it's a really, really hard conversation to have, and you need to know how these people can help you individually, because they can't just pull it out of thin air. Nobody is a mind reader, so how do you go about these things? Because the reality of the situation is, like, yeah, like, hopefully the world will get better, but is it going to actually for real? Probably not. Is people's access to justice going to get easier? I would like to think so, but probably not. Like, if R. Kelly was just a random guy, Would the prosecution be that motivated? Probably not. Would the police have been that motivated? Probably not, if we're being completely honest. But when you have some press bait, we'll say, it gives people a little an ego trip to be able to be like, oh yeah, I prosecuted so and so, or yeah, I was the detective on the case of blah 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 blah. Otherwise, motivating law enforcement or the judicial system is very, very, very difficult, and that sucks. It's terrible. So when you combine that with the fact that there's an entire backlog of rape kits, or it's a crime that the victims don't want to talk about, they don't want to rehash it over and over and over and over again, it's understandable. Again, we've talked about this before on the show. Like, it's a perfect, from a perpetrator standpoint, it's a perfect crime to commit, because your victim doesn't want to tell anything. They don't want to say anything about it, and the people who could possibly bring the perpetrator to justice aren't really like super cool to talk about it either. So yeah, we talk about murder, all kinds of heinous crimes all day long. True crime has exploded as a genre. It's like, oh, so-and-so got murdered, or so-and-so was, burned to death or something. Oh, interesting. Very, 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 very glamorized in a weird, macabre way. But sex crimes it still gives people the heebie-jeebies in a way that they don't want to deal with it. So, with that being said, next week we will rehash what happened in court with R. Kelly. Luckily, because of the time difference, we'll have all kinds of like after court, articles that have come out, and I'll call around and see if I know anybody over there that's really in tune with like what's going on inside the courtroom. I talked to my friend the other day that was reporting from inside the courtroom for Britney Spears this week, because she's obviously super close. The world is going to hell in a handbasket. It is. It absolutely is. But like, basically, like, when is it not? Like, good times they're a myth. That's just a thing that we say. He got to report from inside Stanley Mosque, inside the courtroom for Britney Spears' case. And I was like, oh, if I was in Illinois, I would totally go creep up and just like put my ear in the door if I had to, and just be like, what's going on in there? What is going on in there? But I will make this commitment. If anybody goes to court in Los Angeles County for any of these #MeToo crimes, I will 100% go, and it will be so much fun, because Lord knows I love sitting in the gallery and Stanley Moss Courthouse going, just waiting for the tea to come out. I will 100% go. So, I will see you all next week after R. Kelly goes to court again for these 11 new counts of aggregated sexual assault on minors. It's so gross. It's so disgusting. All right, so I will see you all next week. Check out other shows on Public House Media that are not nearly as dark. Not nearly as dark and twisted, like The Morning Uplift, Beauties and Headcanons, Crowned and Dangerous, which isn't exactly dangerous. Like, it's just they just say that it is. All those fun things. And if you're a podcast listener, or you want to be a podcast listener on iHeartRadio or iTunes or Spotify or Stitcher or any of those places, give us a review or a comment or a star or a thumbs up or whatever. And also, if you want to talk about doing more giveaways on the show, leave a comment, and we will talk about doing more giveaways, because I work with tons of brands. But I want everybody, because like matte liquid lipstick is girly. I want to give away stuff that's like, that everybody thinks is fun. So I will see you all next week for another No Filter Friday on Public House Media. It's going to be a gnarly one because R. Kelly's going back to court. So that'll be our third R. Kelly episode because we've done one before. This one will be number 3. And they say the third time's a charm. So it'll be super fun. I will see you then. Lord only knows what's going to happen between now and then. It'll be fun. See you next week.